sequences. All right. Let's talk about the 12th Parliament now. It has come to an end. Yesterday it was adjourned there indefinitely. Of course, they can still be recalled for any special sitting there. They still stay as MPs until the 9th of August, actually, when the election happens. They can still be called for a special sitting, but for now, they've adjourned indefinitely. And Dumbi, I'll start with you on this one. What is your rating of the performance of the 12th Parliament in general? How have they performed?
Wow. I am personally disappointed by the 12th Parliament for various things, especially the very fact that they failed to protect the doctrine of the separation of powers. I don't think in a new constitution that spells the independence of the various arms of government, we have ever seen a violent takeover like what happened within the 12th Parliament, you know. And they then serviced the directions and the whims and the desires of the executive. You understand? They played slave to another arm. They left the place of checks and balances to maybe taking balances and putting them in the pocket. Sincerely, they violated the doctrine of separation of powers so gravely that the 13th House must be able to recover that integrity back. You understand? And that's critical. You understand? You know. So for me, what I will judge them on is the fact that they failed to protect one of the most sanctimonious edicts of the Constitution to make sure that they are independent and they practice their independence. And I also will not fail to celebrate some of the members of parliament that acted independently towards any kind of enforcement from the executive. I think we've learned from them. But as a corporate entity, the 12th Parliament has failed in terms of judiciously showing the fortitude to stand against any manipulation or whims thereabout.
All right.
So I think for me that would be the take home, and I would pray that Kenyans would give us a 13th Parliament that will protect its independence. And we have seen where a country will go. Look at the taxation regime. I mean, these guys are supposed to protect us from such draconian aspects, and they have failed thereabout. So an independent parliament would prop the country stronger. And a parliament that is not independent then would expose the people into servitude that is completely unnecessary. So for the 12th Parliament, my ratings, if I was to give any, I would be confused as a teacher. I would write on the marking scheme, see me after class.
No marks.
Yeah, no marks.
Duncan, what are your thoughts? Because they did pass the highest number of laws, though, in history here in Kenya. But what is your ratings of the performance of the 12th Parliament?
What I will say is that there's no marking scheme for Parliament. It's very hard to say that because they are very different parameters, and that's why you see even Thumbi will say he does not know how to...
He'll say, see me.
Yes, because he also will not have a marking scheme for them. So he may be asking them to see him so that they may also enlighten him on which are these areas within which they can actually be appraised. Because we do not have... Parliament has diverse roles if you look at the Constitution. And in terms of discharging their mandate, you must first know that Parliament itself is a political creature. So you cannot divest politics from Parliament. It is their business. The constitution of this Parliament is actually by people who have been sponsored by a party and very few who have actually come as self-sponsored. Majority are sponsored by a party. The moment these parties are there, their parties take party positions. And there is a person known by law as a chief whip who whips these members. So it does not matter how level-headed you are, but you will be whipped. So most of these things, politics will always play out, and there's nothing like independence. And I do not even think they can actually be independent, based on the fact that even the speakers of these houses is actually like a political appointee, because people sit somewhere, decide, then marshal their forces, then say vote for this person. The ideal behind the constitution is that parliamentarians should just sit, look at the qualifications of the people who have actually offered themselves to speakership, and make a proper decision. But that will not be. It is not there, not even in the most progressive countries like Britain. So to a large extent, you cannot fault them on that. And in any case, some people would actually take what Thumbi says, as a bad thing to be a good thing. Because, of course, we were used to a parliament that, people were, fighting, pouring water on each other. It was actually like a baby class at a point. And it always used to have drama. The moment we've had the semblance of the handshake, we've not seen all those side shows a lot compared to the other times. And I think maybe we can lend credence to that in terms of the number of bills that they've been able to actually push and enact to be laws. We have had very progressive laws coming from this parliament. We've had laws in terms of the music sector and that industry, and which are very, very progressive. We have had laws which are even protecting house helps. There are so many diverse laws which have come out. Yeah. So you cannot actually cast aspersions on them. The only thing is that they've also failed in a way in terms of the gender issue, because they ought to come out very clearly. They've also failed in a way in terms of checks and balances, because they have impeachment tools which they would use properly, because they've also, to an extent, people will say they've used them, but use them selectively or politically. Yeah. But ideally, they would still, even if, because those are issues that can be dealt with in court, whether it was proper or not, but they would still have used them across the board in terms of, and use them in a much wider way. So Parliament, the way we look at it today, based on even that particular hegemony that is there through the handshake, yeah. Ideally, the reality is still there, and I agree with Thumbi 100%, okay. That the issue of checks and balances has suffered. Because the majority were actually now in support of the executive, and the minority. And even the minority, still, when they woke up in the morning, they had to be, given a wake-up call to realize that they are not in government, because okay. Their system is that they're in government. So everyone in that parliament was in government, ideally. Okay. So it becomes very hard. And then okay. People want to check the parliament, or who want to check the executive, yeah. May not check very well, because they are still, one leg is still in parliament.